G'day everyone, Analytical Strategy here to unpack episode 3 of Australian Survivor. So this was definitely my favourite episode of the first week of the season being released, and there is a few points I want to touch upon in this episode, so I will get straight into it. So firstly, I was wrong. Yes, I was wrong. In my episode 2 recap, I thought Flick brought Gavin over to vote out Janelle, as Gavin was seen voting for Janelle in the outro when all the votes were read. But no, that was not the case, with this being outlined early in the episode that Gavin in fact made a mistake, and Flick did not want to align with him and the other strong alliance at all. I mean, to me, this was actually a little bit of a shocker. It seemed evident from at least the edit in episode 2, it was very clear who they were meant to vote for in Gavin's alliance. So for him to get it wrong was pretty unclear to me, and that mistake was pretty shocking. Gavin could have actually used this mistake to his advantage if he was on the money. He could have said, look, I meant to vote for Janelle. He could have jumped ship over the majority and said, look, I meant this all along. But he decided to stay loyal and stick with his bros and the strong alliance. And look, it really didn't work out for him in the long run there. But before I delve into that tribal council, I just want to quickly talk about the reward challenge as well. So firstly, I just want to mention a comment that Mitch made in the Brains tribe after they saw that Janelle was voted out. So he said it was a predictable move, which firstly I'm like, dude, just shut up. Don't put yourself out there. Don't say anything at all. But then he backed up that claim with saying, be wary if you are on the Brawn's tribe and you're not in a strong alliance, and be wary if you're not one of the big strong boys out there. And then I thought this is actually not too bad of a play, as things like that alone can make the rest of the Brawn tribe really think that this is the perception that that tribe has of us and will show them. So I'm keen to see the reaction of the Brains tribe in the next episode when they see one of the big boys voted out of the game already. Secondly, within these reward challenges, to me it seems a little one-sided. I mean, last episode we had a fighting challenge to drag a bag into a square, and this episode it was all about carrying water, which to the average person is an extremely heavy thing to carry. So these reward challenges do seem a little bit one-sided to me, to the Brawn tribe, so we'll see if that continues as the season goes on. And lastly, after the Brawn tribe wins this Brawn-based challenge, they got a taste of home already. I mean, it's day 6 out of 48 and they're already seeing their family in the form of a photo. So that also seemed like a little bit of a bizarre reward to me this early. I would have definitely expected to see that later in the game, as I'm sure we will, but it was really surprising to see that this early. Anyway, moving on from that, we then got to the immunity challenge, where I much prefer this challenge design with the components of Brain and Brawn within it to really fit the theme of the season. But this immunity challenge was huge for, yes, King George, as the promos are calling him. This was massive for him. George is seen to be on the outs since episode 1 and someone who the tribe really doesn't look to take very seriously at all. I was actually pretty stoked for him in this episode. Being a person that's able to stand up to the rest of his tribe and demand to be heard, to get in and get that puzzle done quickly. I mean, if the tribe did take him seriously and listen to him early on, they would have won by a bigger margin than they already did. So massive props to George. Every episode, I hope he sticks around a little bit longer. He's super funny, he's a really good character, and each challenge the Brain tribe wins, the better it is for George and more likely he can make it to a swap, as from at least what we have seen so far, he is still firmly in the firing line. So yes, the Brains win that challenge, and then the Brawn tribe goes back to camp, and it looks to be a pretty clear divide from the last tribal with a 6-to-5 ratio with the side Flick jumped over to, having the power within this vote, and the target being Gavin. So again, definitely wrong in my assumption last episode that Flick and him worked together when Gavin accidentally voted for Janelle. So Simon and his crew knew that they were down in numbers, and unsurprisingly they tried to pull in the biggest strength from the majority alliance in Big D. So Big D played it up well and confirmed he was with them. And as he was doing so, Kez found the Brawn idol with the assistance of Flick. So the power continued to grow for the majority alliance. And then straight after Kez found the idol, Big D switched the strength alliance from voting for Shannon to voting for Kez. It was actually crazy. It was really well played. And a good sign for that strength alliance, I should say, to display trust for Big D for bringing him into the fold. Now, what was the actual correct move for Big D going into this tribal? To stick with his original majority or to flip over to the strength? Now, honestly, I think without the knowledge of the idol being in play, it didn't really matter a huge deal to his game, to be honest, as Flick, Kez and Shannon seemed to be running that side pretty heavily, whilst Simon, Emmett and Gavin were running the other side pretty heavily. So with the knowledge of the idol being in play, he definitely made the correct call to stay with this original majority, and probably even without it, I think it was the right play for him. I actually really like Big D this season. He's been a great surprise to me so far. His humble personality takes away from how threatening he is physically as a player and how much of a mammoth he is. He's huge. And by not sticking with the other buff lads in his tribe, I think it actually should play to his advantage as he isn't bundled in with all the muscle within his tribe. So I actually think sticking with his original majority was probably the best move for him moving forward in the game. We then get to Tribal Council, with both sides being pretty confident of having Big D's vote wrapped up. And in the end, after he deliberated a little bit at the booth, he ends up voting for Gavin in a 6-5 vote. So Kez received 5 votes and played her idol in the process, and it looked as though she didn't need to with having that majority, but she did so anyway. How she knew votes were coming her way and not Shannon's, I have absolutely no idea. So Big D might have released that information, I'm not sure, but a credit to her for doing so. So, did she need to play it? The results say no. But was it smart for her to play it? Most likely, I think yes, it was the right move. When it is such a close vote being 6-5, and you are aware that you are one of the 2 names on the chopping block, it is really better to be safe than sorry in this game, so I definitely cannot blame her for doing so. But in the end, we lose Gavin this episode, who is probably the biggest name in the Australian community prior to this season taking place, being a legend of our national sport of AFL. But honestly, in Survivor, in the 3 episodes, we really didn't see a huge amount of him overall. And the thing we did see, most of him was him messing up that vote. So me being a big fan of AFL and supporting the club he was a legend at, I would have liked to see more of him personally, but from a Survivor perspective, he really wasn't a big character or overly strategic from what we saw in the edit, so I'm not too disappointed with the result in this episode. Also, something to quickly touch upon that I outlined in my last recap was the Brawn tribe still definitely seem more fractured than the Brains tribe overall. So for example, if some of Flick's alliance gets broken up with some of Simon's alliance at tribe swaps in the future, I do worry for them more at this stage in comparison to the Brains tribe. I also do have some favourites in terms of who I think could progress far or potentially win the game, which I may release as more episodes come out, but it's still so early it could be anyone's game at this stage. A big thank you to everyone for tuning into these recaps so far. I really hope you're enjoying them, and if so, remember to drop a like and a subscribe with plenty more recaps for every episode of this season coming in the future. I hope you have a nice few days break before another 3 episodes starting this Sunday night Australian time come out. So I'll also hope to bring out another standard video on this channel prior to then as well. But for now, this is Analytical Strategy and I'm signing out once again. I will see you on my next video. Okay, bye for now.